We made this.
Hello and welcome to Ask Us About Loom, the point-and-click adventure podcast where we talk about traditional, modern and experimental point-and-click adventure games or adventure game adjacent games like full-motion video, walking simulators and all those kind of things. I am, as always, your host Matt Latham, and we are now deep into Season 2 and I am really quite happy that I've managed to carry on doing all this kind of stuff. So I have sequential episodes, so I'm hoping that you are enjoying this. Like the regular episodes, and as always I have a guest, and the guest joining me is a returning guest. It's Pat from Passion of the Geeks. So how you doing, Pat?
Hi there, I'm so glad I'm back here.
I'm going to assume that you had a decent time last time then, else you wouldn't be back, would you? So
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yes. So previously we talked about King's Quest IV, Perils of Rosella, and I think we did kind of stop ourselves from like venturing across other kind of games in specific detail. But I think there was one game that we did kind of almost nearly try to resist delving into in the series. So Pat, why don't you introduce the game that we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that King's Quest IV was my second favorite King's Quest game.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're doing my favorite one, which is King's Quest VI.
Yes, King's Quest VI to air today, gone tomorrow, which is the King's Quest series penchant for puns kicking in there. Yes, King's Quest VI released in October 13th, 1992 on DOS and in 1993 for Windows and Amiga. Interestingly, October the 13th, 1992. That was my 7th birthday. So,
Okay.
this was released on my birthday. So,
Quite the present.
yes, indeed, yes. But I didn't play it until a bit later on. But so as always, we're not going to go too deep into spoilers or do anything. What we're going to do, I'm going to chat to the guest about the kind of history with the game and why they wanted to talk about it, etc. And then we'll talk about a bit about the gameplay, how the game plays, a bit about the story, just to tease you in. Because if you've not played it before, we're not going to spoil it until like a certain point, and I'll give you advance warning. It's just so that anyone who's not played it will get a feel of what the game is, and then you can decide whether you want to play it afterwards. And I'll explain. I will recommend you do it because I'll explain why a bit later on. But first, Pat.
Yeah.
You said this is your favourite King's Quest game, so why is it your favourite?
Well, it does have everything I'm looking for in an adventure game. I think it's not just my favorite King's Quest game. It's still one of my favorite adventure games ever. It has everything. It has an excellent presentation. It has a nice story, actually, a pretty nice story that is not too overly complex, because it's a fairy tale, but it still works, and it has great puzzles. I think it's just one of Sierra's best.
Okay, so and I think I'm gonna like repeat that sentiment, but I can't remember if I've actually mentioned the concept before of, and this is from other podcasts they've done this before me, the idea of like the Mount Rushmore of games, or the Mount Rushmore characters. Many years ago I was on a Disney podcast talking about a Disney film, and they asked me about my Mount Rushmore of Disney characters. So like if there's 4 Disney owned characters that were on Mount Rushmore, what would they be? And I was picking things like Woody, Scrooge McDuck, and Murray from Cursed Monkey Island actually would be there because technically, because Disney own Lucasfilm, don't they? So it means that I can include Murray from the Monkey Island series. And I was thinking about that, and I don't think I've really had the chance to kind of talk about my Mount Rushmore of games, or Mount Rushmore of point-and-click adventure games, like the 4 adventure games that I'd like put on Mount Rushmore, which I hold as like my all-time favourites. So, and this episode is the first time I'm talking about one of them. So King's Quest 6 is one of my all-time favorite adventure games ever. So so I'm really excited talking about that. So if anyone's interested, if anyone's interested in the other 3 adventure games, it's Curse of Monkey Island, which I think might be my number one. Curse of Monkey Island is my number one, so I'm going to be saving that for I'm saving that episode for a while because I want to do the Monkey Island game sequentially, and I haven't done 2 yet. So so you got King's Quest 6, Curse of Monkey Island, Beneath the Steel Sky. I think Beneath the Steel Sky is like up there. Is Unavowed from Wadget Eye. So I think Wadget Eye Games Unavowed, which I think was released about 4 or 5 years ago now. Definitely, he's up there as one of my all-time favourites adventure games. So those are the 4. But eventually I'll talk about those other 3. So King's Quest 6 is pride and place in one of my all-time favourites. So so we're going to be like fanboying like mad for the majority of this episode. I think you're going to be singing its praises throughout. It's probably got out of those 4, it's probably got the most flaws and perhaps criticisms out of the 4 of them. But I think it makes the game slightly interesting. But I quite like, and I've in researching this, I've seen quite a few things that mention that, and I'm quite looking forward to kind of delving into that aspect of this game as well, about people who kind of like some of the perhaps one niggles that the game has. But I've never not had a good time playing this game. I've played it. I've not played it as much as the other 3, but I've played it quite a few times, and every single time, it's just an experience. So, So King's Quest 6, if you're not, if you're unaware about it in general, so King's Quest 6 is the 6th game in the King's Quest. Now, people might laugh at that, but then again, Sierra has form of naming games
true
the wrong numbers. So like the 4th Leisure Suit Larry game is Leisure Suit Larry 5. So it feels weird I have to explain that it's the 6th game in King's Quest. It was first released in 1992, as I said. It was written by Roberta Williams, and crucially also co-written by Jane Jensen. She's supposed to, it's widely recognised as one of the high points of the series. It's got quite a landmark introductory movie using 3D graphics for the first time in the series. It had professional voice actors in it, and because I think King's Quest V is one of the games with, I think, perhaps one of the richest stories and richest stories, and kind of helps and kind of has quite a few kind of little nods and tips to continuity as well. So it's not it can be played. It can be played completely in isolation. You don't have to have played any of the other games, but you do kind of get like there's a nice little through line through it as well. So, So when was like the first time? So going back to like the origin stories, when's the first time you played King's Quest 6?
Actually, I started with the floppy version. It wasn't in October. It was a little later, but it was around Christmas, I think, if I remember correctly. Shortly after Christmas, I think.
Was this in 92? Was this all the way back in 92 when it was released? Or Yeah,
exactly. And I played through the floppy version, and I liked the game so much. I really, really wanted the CD-ROM version. I mean, I knew there wasn't anything breathtakingly different except the voice acting. And, well, it turned out there was a little bit, a couple of graphical enhancements they had made for the Windows ports. However, maybe we can talk about them a little later. I didn't really like those graphical enhancements, but I mean, the voice acting alone was worth buying the game again full price. And I mean, those were prices back then that were like, I think, £50, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So
Yeah, there's I can't remember what it was, if I'm honest, but yeah, I think so. You'd so you'd played the previous 5 games at this point. I can't remember what I can't. I know we talked about. I think we talked about your origin story with King's Quest series with 4, but for the benefit of anyone who's not listened to that, and for me, because I may have slightly forgotten, what was the first King's Quest game you played? Was it 4th?
No, the first one I played was King's Quest 2, but the first one I finished on my own was the 4th.
Ah, okay. and then you was just pretty much playing them as those released.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think with me, I think it was slightly longer. So I do remember playing the demo on a Amiga magazine cover disc. This must have been 92, 93, I think. Yeah, it must be 92 because the Amiga one came out in 92. I remember playing the demo, and the demo was just the very start. You couldn't go into the shopping bit. All you could really do is talk to the guards, talk to Alhazred, and then use the ribbon on the ribbon to talk to Cassandra. Cassima. And then that was it pretty much. That was it. And I remember playing that going, oh, that's okay, but I never really got the Amiga version. The next time I properly played the full version was, and listeners to previous episodes on Sierra Games might have heard this story a couple of times. It's back to that bloody Roberta Williams anthology. So the same anthology that I first played King's Quest 4, Colonel's Bequest, and the demo of Phantasmagoria. So that's at least four episodes that's come up in there. So yeah, so the first time I really played that was the CD-ROM version as part of the Roberta Williams anthology. So I finally was able to kind of play it properly and just fell in love with it. So yeah, so I think my kind of real kind of playthrough was the CD-ROM version. So I had the voice acting and everything, but yeah, we'll get into the different. Yeah, as I said, we'll get into the differences a bit more later on. So yeah, King's Quest. So the story of King's Quest 6 follows on pretty much. It's kind of from the kind of like fallout from King's Quest 5, because in King's Quest 5, King Graham's castle and family were kidnapped and by I think the wizard Mordak, and in the process of freeing his family, there was also this Princess Cassima from the land of the Green Isles.
Yeah.
That she helped go back, that he rescued as well. And she said about a sentence to Alexander in that whole game before she was, I'll thank the Space Quest historian for pointing this out in his video. A wizard magically transported her immediately back to the land of the Green Isles. Yeah, and then we cut, I think, either months or a year afterwards, where Alexander is pretty much lovesick over this girl that he's met for about 5 minutes, and then decides to go and find this mythical land of the Green Isles. Thanks in part to the magic mirror that's in the throne room, which has a lot to answer for, that mirror. Yeah,
that's an awesome
assembles
mirror.
a crew. Yes, exactly. It's a great MacGuffin. It's a great antagonistic MacGuffin, because I think it was the reason. I think 2 and 4. They also sent Rosella and Graham on quest as well. Yeah. So, yeah. But the ship that Alexander goes on crashes, and he lands on the Green Isles, and in the process, trying to find Princess Cassima, he then meets the vizier Dul Alhazred, who's now taking control of the land of the Green Isles. Cassima is apparently locked away in mourning because her parents were killed, and all these different islands that are part of these Green Isles are currently all on the verge of like being at war with each other because of having massive fallings out for some reason. So Alexander, you being basically King Graham's son, ends up getting involved, and in the process learns about why these islands dislike each other, learns a bit more about the history the Land of the Green Isles, and potentially saves the kingdom in the process. So, I think that's pretty much the story in a nutshell. I think so.
I think that's the story in a nutshell. And the great thing about this story is that the game allows you to complete the game without actually solving all of the puzzles and having a bad ending.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so it's the story. I mean, they kind of flirted with it slightly in King's Quest 4, but yeah, there is actually a way of getting two different endings, so you can kind of progress through the story, but there are additional kind of routes to go down. So you can get at least one or two different endings to for the story as well. Yeah, and I think that's a pretty kind of like interesting way of how the game kind of is written, more or less. And yeah, as we said earlier, I think one of the key differences, differences with the game as opposed to the other ones, and I think, and quite a few things online and commentators online have mentioned this, is that I think the story feels a lot richer and a bit more fleshed out than previous games, and I think that is because I think Roberta Williams wasn't alone in the writing. So Jane Jensen, who would go on to in that same year release a game called Gabriel Knight, I think it's called. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it.
No. A little serious. I don't think it was very good.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be regarded as one of the better Sierra games, if I'm honest. But Jane Jensen came from a writing background, so was a more experienced writer than Roberta Williams. So Roberta Williams was more a game designer rather than potentially a writer. So yes, and see, there is a kind of massive difference in the way that the story is blocked out in terms of how it progresses and the kind of fleshed out kind of story throughout.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel Jane Jensen in the game, especially if you played the Gabriel Knight series. You can feel her, and she makes a huge difference. It's really awesome.
Yeah, so I remember starting the Beast Within. I think I played the Beast Within. I think before I played King's Quest 6, before I had the Roberta Williams Authority.
Oh, okay.
So I played. So I had that kind of experience. But then the first time I played Sins of the Father, which was the first game, was about a couple of years ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed that.
Yeah, so I missed it originally. So I'm trying to think. I'm positive it might have been when I moved house. So if that was the case, it must have been within the last 4 years. So yeah, so it was quite recently I played the first Gabriel Knight game. So yeah, but I think after playing that, you can feel the kind of like the authorship genealogy that you can kind of see when you see different things by different authors. You can feel that kind of like the kind of tone. There are elements of this that kind of match with some of the writing in Gabriel Knight, particularly. We're not going to spoil it too much, but if you go the longer route, there's a slightly darker kind of edge to the story, which fits in with kind of the Gabriel Knight style tone. But yeah, we'll get into that when we unleash the spoilers. But gameplay as well. The gameplay is traditional 2D graphic adventure. It's very similar to King's Quest V in that there's a look, interact, talk, walk. And you can kind of go and you can switch between them by clicking on a bar at the top. There's inventory puzzles, dialogue, etc. Yeah, so and King's Quest, also King's Quest 6, I think was like the second in the series to use the SCI interface. So that was the Sierra Creative Interpreter. And I think King's Quest 4 was one of the last to use the AGI.
Yeah, there were two versions of King's Quest 5, one still using the AGI interpreter and the other an early version of the EGA-based SCI.
Yeah, I think because I remember us having a conversation about the AGI interpreter, and as we go, and I think interesting thing, which I kind of want to go to in a bit more detail, but I think perhaps a bit later on when we go into spoiler bits, is interestingly enough, the Amiga version was translated not in SCI, but in Revolution's Virtual Theatre. I only found that out about 5 minutes before starting recording.
Okay.
And that's blown.
No, actually,
and
the Revolution did an awesome job for the Amiga version, and it was, I would say, the best VGA port of a Sierra game that ever happened, because the Amiga versions of VGA games, they were very slow, very ugly, and, well, did I mention slow?
yes. Yeah, and I think the virtual the virtual theatre ending was a lot faster.
Yeah,
and I think was able to kind of create the coding. But yeah, we'll go into a bit more detail on that. As not to bore anyone who's not interested in the technical side. We won't bore you we might save that to the end. So if anything about engines or anything starts to bore you, you can skip me. We'll put that in the end actually. But yeah, so I think. Yeah, I think we'll probably talk about the cast in a second. So I think if there's nothing, is there anything else you want to like kind of say to kind of sell the game to people before we start spoiling the game?
Well, I already mentioned that there are really great puzzles, and one of the problems Sierra had when switching from a parser to a mouse-driven interface was that their games became too easy for a while. So they kind of compensated with obscure puzzles and lots of dead ends. And this is not the case in King's Quest VI. It has excellent puzzles and basically no dead ends. Well, we have to get into that, but
maybe, I don't know. I think there's a couple. There's a couple, and it's not the smoothest play. So it's not the smoothest play, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So if people are going in expecting a kind of LucasArts flawless kind of straight through, no dead ends, you're not going to. It's typical Sierra in places. Bit different, I think, to other games, but we will get into that. But yeah, I think with that, let's go so let's hit the button and go to the spoiler stuff. So if you haven't played this game, I fully recommend you do. It's one of the best damn adventure games ever. Go and do that now. Stop this podcast, go and play it, and then come back and then hear us talk about it in more depth. The actual story itself. So okay, let's start with the actual plot and story and the character. So I think that the Land of the Green Isles is still to this day the richest kind of other land that is in the King's Quest games. I can't remember what the name of the one in 7 is. So
yeah. Eternia, I think.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, but yeah, that doesn't have a patch on the kind of various kind of like different influences that the Land of the Green Isles have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, is there a favourite out of the about 4 or 5 islands on that? Is there a favourite one that you kind of really liked out of them?
That's actually a pretty good question, because I mean, the Land of the Green Isles, as the name suggests, are a couple of isles, and each of them has their own theme. One of them is based on, let's say, Alice in Wonderland, which is the Isle of Wonders. It has an island based on fairy tales, which is the Isle of the Beast. It has that very strange kind of Greek island, which is the Isle of the Sacred Mountain, which has kind of an Olympus vibe to it. And I mean, there isn't an additional island called the Isle of Mists, which has a more, I would say, Druid, Celtic vibe to it. Each of these islands has its own thing, and still they manage to fit together. And in my opinion, I probably like the Isle of the Sacred Mountain the most, even though it's basically the copy protection island.
Yes.
What about you, Matt? Which one would be your favorite island?
I think very similar. I think perhaps the island Sacred Mist. I think it's an interesting one. Yeah, the copy protection island, but I think it's quite an interesting way of incorporating that, where you have to. So if anyone doesn't know, you're just going up steps and steps, answering questions that you need to refer to the manual for. But I think it's kind of like a mixture of like either Roman or Greek kind of heritage. Like they got these kind of winged, kind of like oracles, and then you get thrown into a pit. You get thrown into the Minotaur pit where you have to fight the Minotaur and stuff. I think it's probably that one myself as well, because there's just like something nice and majestic through it, and you kind of you get that kind of adventure feeling that you scale, like you get halfway through, you get lifted up and thrown in front of the kind of leaders of the island, and you just get the sense of scale. That these islands look a bit bigger than you think they might be. So like adventure game geography is not the best to try and get a sense of scale of stuff, but here you got this sense that you just scaled this, like you've just been sent up this massive mountain. Massive mountain and stuff. That's I think one of like the ones that stick out to me. But I say the other islands have got their own kind of unique flares, and King's Quest has always been something that will always influence some stuff. So you've got fairy tales kind of brought in, but this one feels like a bit more of a serious take on stuff. So like, so you're not gonna have the three bears show up or the Batmobile drive out of a cave somewhere. So yes, you got the island of the Crown, which is like the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, like kind of like Persian kind of influence on stuff. You have the Isle of Wonder, which is very much the Alice in Wonderland one. You've got and the Isle of the Beast, which is basically like Beauty and the Beast, more or less. Which is very interesting considering who voices Alexander in the CD-ROM version. Which is the Hollywood actor Robbie Benson, who was the who was the voice of
the Beast in Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, yeah, something very, very different actually. Come to say, yes.
Well, you actually hear it in the end when he's back in human form. But other than that, it's of course his voice is modulated in some kind.
Yes. But so and he said there's the Isle of the Mist, which is completely optional, but I think it's kind of like, but if you want to go for the full end, the good ending, as you said, there's two ending stuff, then you can go into that as well. But yeah, there's the world just feels quite rich in what it wants to do. Like it just wants to do and everything like that. The kind of like quest to go, and like the idea that these islands take ages to get to, and they're like a long hidden secret that people have to kind of find. And as I said, thank you. As the Space Quest historian did mention in his King's Quest 6 video, Cosima was transferred immediately by magic. So,
that's love, Matt.
Yes, yes. And like you traverse these different islands, figuring out what happened, and as we find out, it's the kind of the Vizier Alhazred. Alhazred, yes, the evil Vizier who, in a nod to continuity, is potentially part of the black. Oh, they're called.
Oh, the black cloaks or black robes, or what are they called?
It's So there's hints that he's in the same society that Mordak and Memanen from Memanen. The villain from King's Quest 3 tentacle as well. So there's that. But yeah, so there's like that whole kind of like the villain of the story. Like there's a very much coming back from and considering the year before we had Aladdin, there's like a very Jafar-esque feel to kind of Alhazred, who we learn was, unsurprisingly, the person who murdered Casima's parents and and also stole all these different things from these different islands and blamed each other for them. So he's definitely causing rifts through that. Yeah, I mean, technically, so he kind of wants to rule the Land of Green Isles. I don't know why he will want to rule a series of islands if they're all fighting each other. I never fully, I never fully got that logic, but
I always assumed that he would use his secret weapon, the genie, to repair everything afterwards and make him a hero and a hero king, not just. But it's never actually mentioned in the game, so your guess is as good as mine.
yeah, or I quite like that. So so he kind of like says, "Oh, I have found these things," and then to just try and get loyalty and stuff. But yeah, it makes sense. And yes, and the genie as well. So Al-Hazred has, I think, Shamir, who is a genie who is. I think the idea being is that whoever's in control of the genie kind of adopts their moral compass. So all the stuff, and I don't think, doesn't seem to be a limit on wishes either.
No, he can wish as much as he wants. It's just that, the genie will be a mirror of his master. So
So throughout the game, as you're traversing the island, Alexander, the player, will come across these kind of weird, kind of like random characters who will try and tempt him to do stuff, and they sort of seem to have weird yellow glowing eyes.
A twinkle in their eyes. You can always, as a player, you can see that something is not quite right. And when you see the genie the first time in one of the amazing cutscenes, you also see his twinkle, those golden eyes he has. And I mean, the game is very fair when it comes to that. They always tell the player a bit more than Alexander would know.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, there's an entire puzzle around that. You need to have the correct lamp to get the genie, to switch to get the genie yourself. And Alexander actually never sees that lamp. It's just the player in a cutscene.
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember some people kind of commenting on. But there's aside from that, that's kind of like one of the more weirder kind of puzzle choices where, like, if you're paying attention at a cutscene, or at least I think one or two different ones, there's a randomized lamp shape in every game, so you have to pay attention and then I think there's a lamp seller and you choose the lamp based on what you, the player, see. And Alexander in story has just guessed correctly, which kind of like Indiana Jones and Harley Grail, possibly. I think.
It's just there's no information that Alexander can gather with his own eyes. There is nothing written, nothing said. It's just that insight he has. So this must be the lamp.
Yes. Yeah. And the story, as you said, goes into two directions. So depending on how much you explore, you have kind of two endings. You've got the kind of bad and good endings, but the bad ending is still an ending. So you still kind of get the girl, and stuff, but there are kind of things that are still ongoing. So so
I mean, you're right. You get the girl, you get Casima in the bad ending, but other than that, it's a really depressing ending.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's not a good ending.
Yeah, I think there's a bit. I think someone says, it's possibly, I think Casima says, "Yeah, it's a shame that like my parents are dead, and that, that all the islands hate each other, and we still haven't got this, that no one can come, blah 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 blah. But at least we're together." whereas the good end. But if you explore more of the good ending, you gain control of Shamir. You uncover Al-Hazred's plans. You find all the lost artifacts. You give them back. And as part of the game that I really want to get into actually because it's one of the better parts. You bring back the king and queen from the dead.
That's a cool part of the game,
and there's a cameo from King Graham and Queen Valanese. Sorry, forgetting what her name is. Valanese as well. There's a nice cameo, and I think is it Josh Mandel doing the voice of Graham?
Yeah, that's true. That's Josh Mandel.
Yeah.
Reprising his role as King Graham.
Yeah, so he appears as well, and like everyone's happy and everything's saved and it's fairy tale, blah, blah, blah. Alexander gets married to this girl that he has about, throughout the game, at least 5 sentences.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the nature of fairy tales, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we can make fun about this, but actually it's very sweet. And as you said, that's fairy tales. I think that's okay. That is something that I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, but I think, and I think, I don't know, some people have got kind of like criticised like the storytelling, like for Alexander going like, oh, he's just fallen for a girl that's spoken to him for like 2 minutes. But then again, this is someone who spent 17 years basically trapped under this like tyrannical wizard that basically tortured him for cleaning the chamber pot. So I have a bit of sympathy for him suddenly like falling for the first girl he meets.
Yeah, I mean, the first girl he meets is actually his sister. So the second one.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that weird.
Yeah. But actually, it's a sweet story that's in King's Quest 3. And you learn a little bit about that part of his life when you play King's Quest 6, even if you haven't played King's Quest 3. He mentions that he was a slave at one point. He mentions that he dabbled in magic. And I mean, that's very well made.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. There's a couple of the kind of like references to that. There's quite a couple of in-jokes as well. There's I think in the bookshop on the Isle of the Crown, you can find like a cookbook, and he said like, no, and Alex is like, no, don't do that again. And there's there's a couple of things like that as well. But this kind of like story's kind of rich, and you have like moments where you go on to, I think, the Isle of Wonder, where you have to the Isle of Wonder where you interact with bugs, and there's like a lot of puns on wordplay where you have to find a dangling participle for a bookworm, and then you go and meet the king and queen on the chessboards. Is it the Isle of Wonder that has the gnomes? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the first, like the first test that there is to get on the Isle of Wonders is to encounter the 5 gnomes, each of them representing one of the senses. That's a pretty cool puzzle.
Yeah, I think perhaps one slight flaw with that is that I think you can easily not get everything to that. I think so. I don't think the game doesn't take you to the things that you need. So that's one of the dead ends I think that you can get. But I think it is it's clever if you get what you've got. It is a clever kind of way of doing it. I think it's just like one of the few flaws in the game. I think is that if you're playing it for the first time, because that happened to me. That did happen to me when I first played it. If you haven't got everything, you just get thrown in the sea and the game ends.
Yeah.
So,
you die.
Yeah, but once you've got everything, it's quite clever puzzle where you have to kind of like, where they kind of basically trick these 5 gnomes by but getting them to touch things, by getting them to smell and see things, and.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, I mean, the game lets you save your game once you arrive on the Isle of Wonder before the gnomes actually appear. And so you still have the possibility to go away from the island and fetch the stuff you need. But when you start the encounter, and you don't have the items you need, then you're done for. Yeah, there's no way back.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a whole thing with the where you meet Beauty and like Beauty and the Beast as well. Yeah. So yeah, so you pretty much find yourselves in the Beauty and the Beast story. And there's one point as well where if you get killed, you see this little animation of the ghost of Alexander get a ticket and then walking through to the land of the dead.
Yeah.
Something that you will see a few times, but then, but a really kind of cool thing that happens is that you end up going to the land of the dead, and you end up walking in that scene
as a living person.
That's when, yeah, I think that really clever when I first saw it.
Yeah. Yeah,
so, I don't know about yourself.
That was really cool, getting there as a living person, and finding a way to get in there without, having to die essentially.
Yes, and I think that's the part where you kind of see the Jane Jensen aspect of the story delve into. So when I was talking about it getting slightly darker, the kind of fairy tale aspects of it kind of died down, and you meet death. Or like the Lord of the Land of the Dead, and I don't know about you, but I love that design.
yeah, that is an awesome design, and it's. I mean, you see him as this big, huge kind of oil painting, and at that point in time, Sierra they rocked backgrounds. That really looks great, and with so many little details in I mean, it's just VGA. It's 320 to 200, and still they managed to make him look really, really awesome.
Yeah, So just imagine there's like, I think the wiki, the King's Quest wiki, gives him the name of Samhain, which I think might be a biblical name for death. I can't remember off the top of my head. Said,
Samhain. Isn't that?
But basically, the Lord of the Dead. It's the Gaelic festival, the end of the harvest, on the beginning of 31st of October. So it's a ritual. So it's part of the traditions around Halloween.
Yeah, exactly, the Halloween thing.
So yeah. But I'm just got a picture of the scene now where you've just got this kind of almost huge hulking kind of humanoid figure, but then the face is kind of like grey with what looks like it's like if the Star Trek aliens ridges just kept going and basically morphs into kind of the throne behind him, and he's got like this massive, like all these chains around him with all these like green rags and this massive kind of imposing steel collar, which gives you that, and I think the idea being is that he's chained there, witnessing all the darkness that humanity has done. And it's a very imposing figure and I think you basically go up there to ask for Casima's parents' lives, and he goes, why? And the solution to that is really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
How to do it.
Yeah, exactly. You hold the mirror to him because he wants you to make him cry, and I mean, Alexander. If you talk to him, Alexander kind of suggests, "Oh, maybe I could tell you about my love," and then he says, "Like, oh, I have listened to the love stories of." I don't know. He mentioned, I think Scheherazade mentioned, and some others, and. Love is no longer something that can make him cry. And then you show him the mirror of truth you get from the Island of the Beast. And he looks into the mirror and he sees his reflection, and it's really well written when the game tells you he sees how he was once mortal. He wanted this throne and how he is now bound to the throne and kind of grown into the throne, and he could never get away from it. And it just clicks, and you see him cry, or might cry. There's one single tear, but it's enough, and that's all all of the emotion he still has. That's so great.
Yeah, it's basically yes. he just basically sees a reflection, but he sees like the centuries of him just sat in on that throne, and it's one of the more powerful and more memorable scenes in not just the game, but I think the King's Quest series as a whole. I can't think of anything that looks as visually impressive than the Lord of the Death in this game, as opposed to anything else. Which, I mean, okay, it might be a bit of a shame compared to the graphical capabilities of the first 4 games, but still, I think just how it looks is immense, because I don't think he has a portrait, you just see him talk, so he doesn't even have his own portrait, I don't think, he just talks to Alexander. I don't think Alexander's portrait's there as well, you just see him talk to that.
No, you just see his back in that scene. There are no portraits there. And even better in the CD-ROM version, where there isn't even a text blocking it. That's amazing. Amazing scene.
Definitely, yeah. Which is kind of weird, like, because you can get, which is kind of strange, because there's a moment where you can have a comedy kind of dance bit where Alexander plays xylophone just beforehand, and which is going to get some people dancing, but which is kind of like a weird abruptness in tone, but overall it's one of the best moments I think in the whole King's Quest series, and like stupidly well written. I can't think of a better word for it. And I think perhaps this might be just before Gabriel Knight came out, so you can kind of the advert. Like he has, if you kind of like this, you're gonna love this other game that's coming out soon. But yeah, so the kind of like stories and the kind of visual look of it is really good. The whole graphic side of the game, if you kind of move on to that, I think looks really nice. I think the art, I think, is a bit better than the 5th game, I think. Admittedly, the backgrounds look great. Again, the character sprites look great. Everyone's very distinctive. And the character designs. Yeah, I think I really like the design of Captain Saladin, who's voiced by Tony Jay. Tony Jay, sadly no longer with us. Very well known voice actor, possibly well known for doing the voice of Rollo from
from Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, but he's been in loads of stuff.
He was very well known for his portrayal as the Elder God in the Legacy of Kain series.
Yes. He was also the voice of my favourite villain as a child, Megabyte from the TV show Reboot.
Okay, yes.
I've often joked that if he voiced Lord Zed in Power Rangers, Lord Zed's my favourite visual looking villain. If Tony Jay was the voice of Lord Zed, I would have crapped myself every time I watched Power Rangers. It's a shame. It's a shame actually he never portrayed Lord Zed some way. His voice would have made a brilliant Lord Zed. But and again, like examples of like the Hollywood voice cast that they've got. I'm just going to quickly double check if I'm missing anyone else.
One of the better known is Townsend Coleman, who voices the Vizier, Abdullah Hazred. And I think he's best known as Michelangelo from the Turtles,
yes.
I think.
Yes, he is, yes.
And I think there's Chuck McCann, who is no longer with us. He voiced a lot of characters and is pretty a legendary actor. I don't know. Maybe he's best known with Geeks as Duckworth from DuckTales. That's what I always think about.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at. I just found the voice cast now. Yeah, so he's Duckworth. He played a couple of the Beagle Boys in DuckTales as well. Also played Egbert in Animaniacs.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
in his voice of Jello and stuff. And apparently he was a lot of background characters in Tailspin. Yeah, there's Don Messick, I think, was the voice of. Don Messick was the voice of Ali and the gnomes, but he was also he did the voice of Muttley from Big Dastardly
yeah.
Muttley, Boo Boo Bear from Yogi. He's done the voice of Droopy.
Okay.
Bam Bam, Hampton Pig from Tiny Toons, as well as Scooby Doo a few times.
Oh, okay. You see, legendary actor.
Yes. Stevie Valance, who did the voice of Cosima. Also did the voice of Dixie Kong.
Oh no, I can never look at Dixie Kong again.
Yes. Ooh, this is interesting. So looking into it, she's also did quite a few voices on Reboot as well. So
okay.
Yeah, so my majority's most well known for being the voice of Mouse on Reboot. So wow, that's quite a lot. Yeah. I'm reading this as we talk.
Well, one voice actor that we need to mention is Bill Ratner, who is the narrator, and not really because of what he did outside of King's Quest VI, but his work as the narrator is spectacular, I think. He has such a great narration voice. And I mean, even if you hear the phrase, Alexander feels a strange pulling sensation for the upteenth time,
yes.
it's still, he just really reads those narration lines so well. I really love him.
Yes. Actually, he wasn't on that list that I was looking at, actually, but I know what you mean. The voice acting of the narrator, it's the voice you're going to hear the most.
Yeah.
And it's very crisp, very low, very very dramatic when it needs to be. And it says, it's like, as he walks, Alexander. And it's like ridiculous of how well it's done. And I'm just having a quick look at what else he's done. And he's been in all sorts of stuff. Mass Effect, Robot Chicken.
Yeah. Oh, he is Udina, isn't he? In Mass Effect. Yeah,
he's in Udina, yes. He's in Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
He's in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He really does an awesome job. And I mean, you mentioned that the whole game, it feels very rich. And one of the reasons is because the lines the narrator says are very, very well written. There is always, if you look at stuff, and I mean, in a Sierra game, basically everything is a hotspot.
Yes.
And if you look at stuff, you learn so much about the world and the characters. And yeah, Bill Ratner, he just reads those lines so well. It's a lot of fun listening to him explaining things about what items are, who those characters are. And a lot of times you have kind of an insight of what Alexander thinks about stuff you look at, with lines like Alexander thinks that, or Alexander believes that. And there's a lot of, you learn a lot of Alexander as well. And that works really, really well.
Yeah, because I think Alexander as a character is not the most expressive. So he doesn't vocalize a lot of his thoughts a lot, because he's very kind of stalwart and honourable and stuff. So he, he'll walk. I mean, he walks right up to the villain at the very start of the game, saying, "Oh, excuse me, I would like to see Cosima." He goes, she's not here. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me my regards. And he goes, "Yes, we are due to be wed." "Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. Congratulations on your wedding. Okay, I should try and find myself off this island on the ship that was smashed to pieces. Okay, bye." Yeah, he's that kind of but then and I think it's more or less the narrator and the player having to go, "No, you can't leave. You have to do something wrong is going on, Alexander. You have to go and do that." But yeah, I think there's quite a lot of I think the voice acting, I think using actual actors, I think kind of steps up in kind of that. Even though although it is telling that Josh Mandel he's playing other characters, it was playing other characters, whereas I think as at 5, I think it was just random employees doing the background characters. I think whoever was walking past the office, I think at the time, did the voices of 5. But I think there's a kind of step up and stuff, and with the and going back to the graphics section, with because you can choose between text and voice, but with the text it downgrades to the original kind of floppy disk look portrait, which is a very flat, kind of like very pixely, not that very detailed kind of animation. Whereas with the CD-ROM, you got these high res, kind of very shiny, polished portraits that are lip synced to the voice. Now, you said you weren't particularly a fan of that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, the CD version, you could back then you could start it either in DOS, and then you get the old floppy disk portraits, or you could start it in Windows, and you would have the high resolution portraits. And now, if you start the DOS version and you still have the old portraits, there's still a little bit of lip syncing going on. That works not quite as well as in the Windows version, but it is sort of lip synced, so it's not that bad. But yeah, I think, but that's just my personal opinion. I always thought that the new portraits, they kind of clash with the rest of the graphics. They have that sort of, they're more, I would say they're more vibrant in colors. And the style is a little bit different. It's hard to pinpoint. I'm not an artist, but to me, it always clashed. And one thing that I especially didn't like was that besides the inventory icons and the portraits, nothing was higher resolution. So what we got was a pixely sort of background, which is, I would say, about 92% of the graphics you see, was still low resolution. And even worse, the VGA resolution was 320 to 200. But in Super VGA under Windows, they made it like 640 to 480. So there were kind of 80 pixels that they had to fill. So every few lines in the background image, they were kind of tripled or something. It looked really jarring in my mind or in my eyes. So I didn't really enjoy that all that much. But you didn't have a problem with the portraits.
I didn't mind the things, but then again, that was the first, I think, apart from seeing the old ones based on the Amiga floppy disk version, I didn't really play it until like 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
So, and in my mind, I was seeing, oh, this is the slightly polished CD-ROM version. So at that point, so at that point, I thought I had the kind of advanced version. So I kind of gotten used to them. And I remember kind of looking at the text version at one point, and I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a downgrade, and I'm not a fan of the kind of pixely animated stuff. It feels a bit more blocky. But then again, that might just be the case because I'm used to the more higher res stuff. But I completely understand how it kind of clashes with the kind of like a blockier resolution of the actual game itself.
Yeah.
But I think I can't imagine how much more time it would have taken to try and do the game in the same resolution of those images. But,
yes, of course.
Yeah, but I think it's probably I do feel as if the kind of the development team is probably testing a lot of the lip syncing stuff as well, because I do think it is lip synced, if I remember rightly. I think and which I think is quite rare for particularly game in that order. And I do think that I think they do carry that technology to better effect with Gabriel Knight.
Yeah.
So but the way they do that is basically have all the dialogue go with the blank screen with the two faces, don't they? So rather than having it on screen. It's like so that the high resolution images don't clash with the actual backgrounds of stuff that it's saying. So
Exactly.
yeah. So when you start asking people about voodoo, it doesn't clash with it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So talking about the kind of different versions, then there's I mean, I've never played the full version of the game on the Amiga, so the floppy disk version, but there is quite a bit of differences between them in terms of graphical stuff. So, and I think with a couple of different versions. So, because you alluded to that. So, what kind of things were you aware of in the differences between the different versions?
The Amiga version had less color. It didn't have 256 colors like the DOS version. But I think if I remember correctly, it has been a couple of years, but if I remember correctly, Revolution actually managed to have a sort of 64 color palette. So it looked amazing on the Amiga. And I mean, there were lots of animations, especially background animations missing. In the DOS version, when you go on the Isle of the Crown, for example, there are trees swaying in the wind and stuff like that. That was missing with the Amiga version. And of course, no voice acting. But other than that, for an Amiga game, it really looked amazing. And the most important aspect was it actually played decent. I mean, if you played King's Quest V, you kind of on the Amiga you had to switch discs back and forth, and you kind of fell asleep the first time Cedric the Owl started to fly to the next screen or something. That was awful. Or even worse was Space Quest 4, which I think had about 8 shades of gray and some sort of lilac color for all of the graphics. So it looked horrible. But King's Quest 6, that really was breathtakingly beautiful.
Yeah, I remember having Beneath the Still Sky on the Amiga, and it did. I mean, I only got to a certain point because the game kind of broke, and I had to take it back because it just wouldn't work. But I think for the first hour that I was able to play it, the virtual theatre engine that King's Quest 6 was adapted to. Mm-hmm. So worked surprisingly well on the Amiga. So the virtual theatre engine, developed by Revolution, which was used in Broken Sword, in Beneath the Sky, Lord of the Temptress, kind of gave the idea of a life in the background of things, so characters would move around and stuff. And King's Quest 6 doesn't really have that, so you're not going to have characters wandering around doing their off on their own, kind of like Beneath the Sky did, but it allowed for kind of multiple layers of kind of programming happening in the background, so it gave some life, and it made things speed up, and that kind of was optimized for King's Quest 6, which meant that instead disc swapping was a bit less reduced than other games. And as much as I love Monkey Island 2 on the Amiga is an absolute ball to play. You go into, because the way it worked it made no sense. You're in Woodtick on Scab Island, and you say, oh, insert disc 8, insert disc 6, insert disc 2. Then you go in, you just pick up something, leave, insert disc 7. Yeah. Whereas King's Quest 6 was more optimized for that, and I think, But my God, CD-ROMs were great for getting rid of that stuff. The King's Quest wiki has quite a bit about the different things that were different between the Amiga and the CD-ROM version. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go through all of them stuff, so it's a bit like some sprites change colour depending on the shades. Music is reused rather than stuff. Text colours are different. There are kind of interesting these things where in the CD-ROM versions, close-ups appear as a little window on above, layering over, like the Oyster, for example, on the Isle of Wonder. On the Amiga, it's its own screen rather than just an overlay. And I think there's a couple of instances where the overlay doesn't work in the Amiga. There's texts in different things as well. Cliffs of Logic were changed there's also I think as well, the Isle of Wonder on the Amiga, as you said, that the game, they don't kick in until you start walking into it. On the Amiga version, they immediately appear.
Okay.
So you don't.
I didn't know that.
So you don't have the option of using the map. There's no death cutscene in the Amiga either. So when you die, you just have the window, so you don't see Alexander walk into the land of the dead.
So you don't have to change the disc, I assume.
Yes. Yeah. There's riddle gates that have gone. Yeah, you have to use the magic map on Alexander, so you can't just use it in the inventory. There are some characters missing, so Oxymoron and Dithong are not in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so Alexander can't. Apparently, this is interesting. Alexander can't, and say I've not played the Amiga version. And did you say you played it? Or?
Yeah, but it has been a couple of years.
Yeah. So apparently, the castle basement isn't accessible in the Amiga version. So several puzzles were deleted or changed. For instance, there is no female ghost in the realm of the dead, nor is the screen that she was found in the CSI version.
Oh, okay.
And the SCI version. Since Alexander cannot visit the dungeon and give her the handkerchief to the boy ghost, as well, the portrait now will always be available to players. Alexander cannot play the Bones xylophone in the Land of the Dead or obtain the skeleton key. Nor are there any skeleton guards other than the keymaster. So, yeah.
I don't think I played the Amiga version that far.
Yeah. I think it's quite interesting that they have cut stuff down, which kind of makes sense, particularly with like the floppy disk games as opposed to CD-ROM stuff. So it's occasionally this, yeah. So yeah, rooms in the catacombs are different. Inventory items are different. Apparently, the game has no credits in the Amiga version. There's only a message to the player.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
So no girl in the tower.
Yes, no girl in the tower, which we've not talked about yet.
Yeah.
But there's like different stuff in that, and apparently there's a companion novelization of the game somewhere. Apparently, which I've not.
I heard about that. I've never read it, so I cannot say anything about that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I need to look into that. But yes, also in this game, the girl in the tower. So we laugh, but so this is basically the game attempting to do a kind of love song.
Yeah.
And I mean, it fits with the game, I guess, but I'm not a fan
actually,
of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad. It's a typical early 90s love ballad. Everyone tried to do those. And I always liked Casima's theme, even in King's Quest 5. And they reused the theme Casima had back then in King's Quest 6. And basically, one big part of The Girl in the Tower is Casima's theme, and I like that part of the song, and then it gets to the refrain, and I don't think that is as well made as the rest of the song, but that's personal opinion.
The floppy disk version of the game had a sample of about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
To which then the game comes up saying, comes up and says, this is the game, this is the song. Please refer to the manual. And the manual has a list of local radio stations, to which to phone the radio station and request the radio station play the song. It didn't work.
Well, I think radio stations have, how should I put it? I think they need a certain quality of recording, and I assume that just some recording they sent is not the proper quality that is required for media. I don't know. I never called a radio station. This were, I think, if I remember correctly, they were mostly American radio stations, and so I'm not the I'm not interested in that. But I heard that there were actually people who requested that the song, and the radio stations didn't want to play it. And if I remember correctly, they sued Sierra because Sierra told them to call the radio station. Something like that.
I couldn't find anything on that. If anyone lets me know, if anyone has any information now, please let me know. I'd be interested to see.
Yeah, please. I really wonder if this is just something that, the German media made up, or if was really the truth. I really would like to know that.
Yeah, so I was going interested into that because it was composed and written by Mark Siebert, who Californian kind of like composer who's primarily did a lot of work in terms of composing stuff for Sierra games. So did quite a lot of that.
Amazing stuff actually. And I mean, in King's Quest 6, you can just hear Sierra were the masters of the Roland MT32 back then. They really had awesome music in King's Quest 6.
Yeah, but he was involved in quite a lot. So, I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page now. So he was involved in Police Quest 2, Quest for Glory, Codename Iceman, Conquest of Camelot, Mixed Up Mother Goose, King's Quest 5, Phantasmagoria, Love for Sale, Conquest of the Long Bow, and he was kind of like involved in editing or being musical director or editor on quite a few of the other games as well. There's loads that he's probably been on. So he's got a sound credit for Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Father, again Mask of Eternity, Princess Bride. He was producer for that. Laura Bower, Ammon Ra. I don't think he's not on Colonel's Bequest. No, he's not on Colonel's Bequest.
I'm not sure. No, I don't think
he's not. No. Space Quest 1, the remake, a few of the Larry games. Yeah, loads. He was director for Jones and the Fast Lane as well. So he's okay. So he's got his hand in quite a few different parts of that. So that probably why he says, "Oh, can I try and create a top 40 single?" Yeah, go on then. But,
if anyone could have made it, it would be Mark Siebert.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I think. So I think as we're gearing up towards, I think kind of like the end of our chat. The only thing that I think we've not really mentioned was a bit more on the kind of production side of it, where it was. I think it was one of the more expensive games that they've done, because what they did was they filmed actors in the roles and filmed them and started tracing over with the pixel and tried to do kind of like not frame by frame, but like a lot of the close-ups that you have. So like some of the like close-ups where you see the kind of characters and stuff, they were actually filmed and shot photos and image and video of the actors like reading the lines and doing that, and animate and kind of traced over that footage to create these kind of really nice kind of close-ups. So there's like a scene where Alexander and Cosima meet, quite well done. Like the scene where you first meet Alhazred as well, where they're all kind of standing up and you're at kind of like a low angle, and like Alexander's kind of framed to look kind of very intimidated by Alhazred. That's kind of like another one that was done. I think that I don't know whether I'm not sure if the motion captures continued with other stuff, but some of the interesting stuff around that. If I'm reading, there's a paragraph on it on the Wikipedia. Storyboards and character sketches were created by co-director and project manager Bill Skirvin and the artist team. John Schroeds sketched 80 background paintings. Motion capture transcribed the movement of real-life actors shot on video to the more than 2,000. And Michael Hutchinson led the animation team that integrated the footage into the Schroeds backgrounds. Chris Brayman composed the MIDI music and produced the sound effects. The 3D animated introduction was produced by Stanley Liu of Kronos Digital Entertainment, a company that did special effects for films such as Batman Returns and Lawnmower Man. and this sequence is present with different edits and narrations in each of the DOS, Windows, Amiga, and Macintosh versions. So yeah, I think that we briefly touched upon that introduction actually. There's like very different versions of that. I think the Amiga version had a couple of very stuttery stop frame moments with text.
Yeah.
With the one I remember is like a fully animated 3D version with the animated stuff, which nowadays doesn't look that good, but at the time it was pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, it looked amazing back then. The turn around the throne room and stuff, that was really amazing. Even in the floppy version, the Amiga, as you said, had just a couple of still frames, but even in the floppy version, that looked fantastic, and even better in the CD version.
Yeah, because you have that kind of rotation where you suddenly see a very depressed mopey Alexander with his hand on the steps of the throne, up to the throne with his and the camera kind of rotates around him, and the technology's improved now. I would say that, but 1993, we are we are 2 years away from Toy Story. 3 years away from Toy Story at this point. But then you are running it on kind of lower spec machines that were than what were rendering Pixar films at the time. It's, if you picture yourself as like on a very low spec PC, looking at this, it's very impressive for the time. But
definitely.
I think we are starting to get up towards the end of our chat, Pat. And is there anything that we may have missed that you want to talk about?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. I do think we have a pretty great rundown about what made King's Quest VI great, don't we?
Yes. Definitely, yeah. I think some people have got criticisms on it, which, I think with perhaps some of the dead ends and the kind of frustrations of stuff, the kind of frustrations of the dead ends, like if you kind of miss something, then, okay, yeah. I can see why some people might get a bit annoyed at that, but I still think that the story and the kind of richness of the world of the Green Isles kind of cancels that out. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think, they make the So the deaths are quite funny at times. But
and they're telegraphed. I mean, they didn't come out of nothing. If you are a little bit careful, if you look at stuff, the game tells you that you should be careful here. And I mean, there are a couple of dead ends, yes, but also again, the game tries to help you as much as it can. For example, before you get into the labyrinth of the Minotaur, if you don't have all the items you actually need, the king will give you a grace period where you can prepare yourself. So you know that you don't have all the items. If you have all the items you need in the labyrinth, then the king will just throw you into the labyrinth. So there are these few smaller things the game does to help you not get into any dead ends. But I mean, you can ignore it, and then you have it. It's still a time where Sierra made games that you could actually lose, where you had to be careful, where you had to save early, save often, as Lo always said. And I like a game that poses a challenge, an adventure that just does not take me by the hand and lets me and tells me, oh, you can do whatever you want. Nothing bad can happen. I mean, that's fun every now and then, but I like a challenge. I like to be challenged by a game. And I think, I love these kind of adventures, especially if they are as fair as King's Quest VI.
I'll say I'm a massive fan of the LucasArts games adventures, and yeah, I will admit that I'm perhaps more preferable of the LucasArts than Sierra games, but I think this is perhaps, I think this is my favourite that Sierra have done. It's one of my like top 4 Mount Rushmore games. So yeah, this is like one of my favourites of all times. So I think that there's enough to kind of enjoy, and sometimes you can get slightly frustrated with it and might have to go and sort of walk through to try and figure out what's going on and realise that you have to go back and get something that you might have missed. But I think the world and the story and just the way that the fantasy aspect kind of envelops like the whole thing, or the whole show, or whatever, well, the whole game, I think cancels that out, and it's just like one of the best kind of experiences that I've had playing like an adventure.
Yeah.
An adventure game through it. So
I mean, I play it every now and then.
And I think just like something you have to just kind of So how often do you replay it?
Oh, well, every couple of years, I would say. I've played it perhaps 10, 15 times, something around that. It's, I just love it. It's like, a movie that every line, but it's still something you can watch every time and you have fun. And to me, King's Quest VI is one of those games. I know everything about it, and I love it nonetheless.
Yeah, and agreed. And I think that's a nice note to end our conversation on. So, so Pat, thank you ever so much for going on and talking about King's Quest VI. I can't just reiterate how much I love this game. But so if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Well, right now, I'm a little bit in a hiatus. You can find Passion of the Geeks still the older episodes. We're making perhaps a second season or third. Let's see what happens to that. If you are able to speak German, you can hear me in a small podcast called Pixel Hunters, where I talk about retro games with a friend of mine named Kai. Other than that, at the moment, I'm kind of doing family stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's meine Deutsch ist nicht so gut. Ich will mehr Deutsch lernen. Aber eins Tag ich will. I don't know what attempt is. Ich will Pixel Hunters.
But was great. That was great.
Listen. Yeah, I mean, I did really well in German when I was at school, but I've always meant to try and go back to it. It's just I couldn't remember. I can remember grammar. I just could not remember it's vocab that was off. So like I'll be going ich mag ice cream essen or something like that. But I'll just to the point where the grammar I could get used to. It's just that like I'll get there and I'm like, and my teacher, like saying like, you're doing really well, except that you just start throwing in English words. So and I can't but I mean I think the goal at some point is to be able to try and either read or try and read something that is in German. So I'm a bit long way, but one day I'm going to try and listen. I keep but so it's the most of any other language that I know of. So but maybe I can just about. I think whenever you tweet in German, I can just about know what to put into Google Translate, but I can get some of it. So one day. So if people want to follow, ask us about Loom, you can do so on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter /X, or any other kind of social media. So on Instagram. I think we're on Threads. At some point, Blue Sky. I think at the time this is released, I probably will have a Blue Sky account for this point for the podcast. Just look for that. If anyone has any comments or anything that they want to say about any of King's Quest 6 or any of the games that we've covered, feel free to email me at askusaboutloom@gmail.com. Because what I would love to do a kind of mailbox episode at some point, and at the time of recording no one has emailed me, so please email me. So I'd love to do a mailbox a mailbag episode at some point, so feel free to email me, and that's at askusaboutloom@gmail.com. So that's the end of the this episode, and again I just want to say thank you again for Pat for coming on.
Thank you, Matt. It has been a lot of fun.
Yes, and as always, Ask Us About Loom is part of the We Made This Podcast network. If you feel free to stay on, feel free to carry on listening, because there'll be a trailer for one of our shows that's also on the network after this. But feel free to follow them on wemadethispodcasts.com. Or that might be the URL. It might be something different, completely different, because Tony, our Lord and Saviour, keeps changing the Twitter handle. But go and look at We Made This Podcast, and you'll find other stuff, including my other podcast about music, which is Picky Disc. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with season 2. There's probably, I'm not sure what number episode this is, so there's probably going to be a lot more to come, or a few more to come. I'm not sure where this is going to land on that. But please, thank you ever so much for sticking with us. Sticking with me for season 2 so far. I look forward to bringing you the next episode in 2 weeks' time. So all I have to say is thank you for listening, and keep on adventuring.
If I asked you to think about Japanese movies, what do you picture? Anime, no doubt. You think of the beautifully rendered works of Studio Ghibli. Maybe you picture Godzilla and his coterie of city-ravaging kaiju. Perhaps you see Toshido Mifune wandering the countryside and armed with only his wit and his blade. And I know you're trying not to think about the pale-faced ghost with long hair and creepy noises. And maybe you're a fan of the exploitation type of cinema, where schoolgirls wield chainsaws and machine guns with abandon. My name's Perry Constantine. I'm an author and a teacher, and back when I was in college, I had the exact same image of Japanese films as you did. It was my love and interest in these movies that led me to move to Japan. Now, almost 20 years later, I'm still here, and teaching classes about Japanese film. What I've learned in that time is that Japanese movies are so much more diverse than just anime or kaiju or samurai. Sure, those movies are fun, but by exploring the wide range of Japanese cinema, there's so much we can learn about Japanese history, society, and culture. That's why I started Japan on Film. In each episode, I'm joined by a different guest to help me spotlight just some of these excellent movies. We'll be watching the good, the bad, the popular, and the bizarre. Come along with us on a journey into the wide, wonderful, and sometimes very weird world of Japanese cinema. Listen to the Japan on Film podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and visit our website, japanonfilm.com.